Well, hello everybody. For people that are joining into the live stream, this is the Missing Wolves post-game podcast live stream thing. I'm Andrew Dukowitz, who just finished talking to everybody for like an hour about Lynx nonsense and tomfoolery today. But we also had a Wolves game, so we're back at it again with Eamon Cassels from Dunking with Wolves. How's it going, man?
Good. I appreciate you having me on the show, Andrew. And yeah, excited to talk some Wolves, especially on a positive note.
100%. It feels so good that they were just normal tonight. And also Duke Schindler making another podcast appearance. How's it going, man?
Not too shabby, Andrew. In the words, or I guess in Isaiah Rashad, if you know him, ball knower, he's dropping a new album soon, recently, and it's going to be called It's Been Awful. That's how the last few games have felt until tonight, especially this last second half.
Yeah, I mean, let's kind of get into it. I don't know how much you can really like take as that Pacers team was not good tonight. So I don't know how much like good vibes you can take from that, but like the Wolves just went in and had a professional basketball game. I mean, Eamon, is there anything you're kind of taking from tonight's game?
Yeah, like you said, hard to have any major takeaways against this Pacers team, but I think my biggest takeaway would be Io's play continuing to be really solid. And tonight it was the finishing, really. He was attacking the rim with elite force, and he was creating a lot of offense for them. And just in general with Io, I've really loved the addition, and he can provide so much value in so many different areas. And tonight it was finishing. Other nights it might be shooting. Other nights it might be more defense, playmaking. And I think it's just been a tremendous acquisition for this team, and he just fills so many gaps for them. And I think that was just another example tonight, especially with the finishing.
I mean, Io finishes the game a team best plus 22, 24 points, 5 rebounds, 1 assist, team leading 17 shots. And I don't think any of them looked bad. I mean, Eamon, go on a little bit more about just like what has impressed you so much about Io just since coming to the Wolves? Because I'll be honest, like I kind of thought this season it would be like, yeah, he'll be better Mike Conley, like a more efficient corner shooter, a little bit more go off the dribble, good defense. But he's been like sensational.
Yeah, for sure. I was a big fan of the move, but I didn't expect him to scale up to this degree. And obviously, the injuries have played a role. But I think just showing that he can scale up has been the biggest thing for me. Being able to provide that extra shot creation, that extra finishing. And that's an element that the Timberwolves have really lacked, a guard who can generate rim pressure as well as create for themselves consistently. And I think Io fills in that void so nicely. And I think he's a clear long-term piece for this team. Obviously, it will be tricky with the contract number in the offseason, but he's established himself as a clear part of this team's future. And like I said earlier, he just fills in so many voids for them. A lot of people are going to say Nickeil Alexander-Walker, and there's a lot of similarities there, obviously. But another guy he kind of reminds me of is Derek White because he can scale up into that bigger role, but he can also just complement the stars so nicely. So, yeah, I think he's just been a perfect fit, and especially during this recent stretch with so many injuries, I think he's just proven that he can really rise to the occasion and provide secondary creation and can almost be that complementary star.
It is like wild because around the trade deadline, like people ask pretty frequently of like, what does this team need? And my go-tos were either Derek White or 27-year-old Mike Conley. Like those are the two things that would really help this team. And the fact that they kind of got that type of player with Io just for pretty much nothing. I mean, Leonard Miller, depending on what you think about him, you know, probably a fringe NBA guy unless something crazy happens. Rob, obviously disappointing. The pick swap with Detroit, like, you know, not a ton there. Well, I guess the pick swap with Detroit was a secondary move, but like Mike Conley going to Charlotte, like, I mean, Duke just like looking back on this now, like, where are you ranking this mid-season acquisition a month and a half in?
It's yeah, no, there's not many for anyone that's been a Wolves fan for longer than 15 years. It's every acquisition, every free agent signing has been hopeful for fans at best, but this is something where this was. I can't say I was predicting this because I didn't think he'd be this good. I didn't think he'd be dropping 24 points on 10 of 17 from the field. It's just great to have another guy like that. And I was just thinking about what's going to happen in the future. I'm sure we'll be discussing plenty of that. But in my brain, I can see a little Io. I can see a Anthony Edwards at number 1A, little bit of Jaden at 2A, and then Io at 2B. That's really, really doing something for me here. And he's just been doing everything else too. We love Dante, and he's been having a real tough stretch. We love Dante because he goes and gets every board. He throws his body on the floor. He's been great, but that shot is just not falling. So having a guy like Io step into the court, and he only went 1 of 5 from 3 today, but the way he can get to the rack is a little different than Dante. The way he can put on a second gear, get a couple steals here and there. You know, Dante can hound a guy and make him uncomfortable enough to cough up the ball. Io uses multiple different things on defense that can get himself in the way, steal a ball, and it's coast to coast most of the time at this point because no one else is running with him unless it's Bones, twin turbos.
Yeah, Bones and Io always willing to go. I mean, it will be interesting to see. I mean, it kind of sucks this year because when Ant does come back, it's likely the playoffs. So I don't know what type of sample size we'll get of like Ant, Io, and Dante out there, but I do think Dante's life becomes significantly easier when you have a guy like Io that is just able to handle the ball. I mean, do you see a scenario where I mean, I guess again, looking into next season, like, do you see a scenario where those 3, Jaden, like those 4 guys are starting? Ant, Dante, Io, and Jaden, maybe?
Not off the top of my head, unless someone trades for Naz Reid and you do something with Rudy Gobert and Julius Randle, I guess, on top of that, or at least keep one of those guys. I would not prefer to have Naz at the center at this point in his career. I think we've seen enough of the center. He gets dogged on defense with really big guys. Not his fault. He's only 6'9". He shed how many pounds, but when it comes down to it, he's just not a 5. More so of a 3-4 at this point, and he'd even tell you that probably from the first day he walked into this league as well. It would be interesting to see. I feel like for those 4 guys, you almost got to choose 3 of the 4.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how much I like Jaden at the 4 spot, but having that many defenders and that many high energy defenders on top of that is a really exciting thought.
I mean, that's the obnoxious part is like, if they're able to keep those 4 together, if Rudy stays, if they're able to flip Randall into another guy, like this could be one of those teams where it's just all world defensively. I mean, you mentioned Naz Reid. Eamon, I'm going to throw it back over to you. I mean, just how good was it to see Naz Reid look like himself a little bit tonight?
Yeah, it was awesome. Obviously, he's been struggling with that shoulder injury, and I feel like today was probably the first game where you didn't really notice him grimacing as much. Obviously, I don't know how big of a deal this game will be moving forward if he can build some serious momentum before the playoffs, but obviously a great sign because he really hasn't been able to put it together. And then one thing that I did notice with him was he was getting just a lot of inside looks and a lot of bunnies, and I feel like that got him going early, and then he was able to extend out to the 3-point line, and he really did what he does best there, and knocked down some threes, and the shoulder didn't seem to be affecting him at all. So yeah, incredibly promising sign ahead of the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, to your credit, first 2 buckets out of the gates were just inside 2s, like makes both of them. And just, I mean, I guess we'll kind of address the elephant in the room too, of like Finch goes all the way to the 9-minute mark in the 4th quarter with all of his starters pretty much out there in a game they were leading by 20 for most of it. Eamon, I'll start with you. Just any thoughts on like Finch's, I guess, heavy minutes to the main rotation in a game that maybe they didn't need heavy minutes?
Yeah, no, for sure. I definitely noticed that. And at a certain point in the 4th quarter, it was clear that this one was over and it was time to get the bench guys in. But ultimately, I don't think it's too big of a deal. I feel like just given how many weird games the Timberwolves have had and they have a tendency to blow leads at times, I kind of understand it. And especially, you just want to get a few wins before the playoffs. I know seeding doesn't really matter at this point. They're pretty much locked into the 6th seed. But I just like to see this team get a few more wins, and I'm sure Finch feels the same way. So I feel like just making sure that the game is 110% sealed kind of does make sense. But yeah, I do think you could definitely nitpick a little too much minutes for the starters, especially down the stretch. He could have thrown some of the bench guys in a bit earlier.
Yeah, I want to say,
in a way.
What's
Like,
that?
just like, do you think it may have been just a little bit out of spite from Coach Finch? Like, you guys have been playing just so bad recently that like we need to stay out there and really like get right. Not like really out of spite, but like let's get these guys as many dominating minutes as possible so they just feel better about themselves and the vibes just go up just a little more.
I think that's where I would land on it, especially with like Nas, where it's like he's been struggling so much and he like saw the ball go in. So like, yeah, let him stay out. The eyebrow raising moment I had was like 5 minutes left. Julius went back to the score table, and I was like, what's happening here? Which Steven brings up, justice for Behringer not playing Behringer 20 plus minutes was a crime. I mean, I'm not going to argue with that. This did seem like a game. Rudy was kind of iffy at times. I mean, Duke, I guess just like, what's your thought on kind of the Behringer experience this year?
I would say it's kind of exactly what I expected this year. I didn't really think he was going to play too much on an NBA court. I probably thought he was going to get more G League minutes, but it's pretty obvious that Chris Finch wants Yohan in the same building practicing with a 4-time depoy and one of the strongest guys in the NBA in Julius Randle and a 6 Moy on top of that in Naz Reid. I think it was very beneficial for Yohan to stay mostly with this Timberwolves team, playing against those guys in practice every day because he gets so many looks from all three too. They all have their own very special skill set. And that's just only going to build his mentality and smarts basketball IQ. The guy's only been playing basketball for a handful of years. You get this wisdom of how Rudy plays when he gets his offensive rebounds, puts them back. You can try to get in the way of that. And there's many guys like Rudy in this league. Then you just have a skilled scorer in both Julius and Naz, and they're both very different in how they score. We never see Naz Reid take a mid-range. Julius Randle, that's his bread and butter to really get going before he starts extending that out to the three-point land. So I'd say it's successful. I mean, obviously, probably wanted to see him play more minutes, and when he did get significant minutes for a handful of games, it wasn't like, ooh, this guy's not ready.
Yeah.
He definitely, the turnover, he had some weird turnovers. He had some weird fouls, but once again, the kid's only been playing basketball for a handful of years. You're going to get that in his first minutes in the NBA. But overall, he probably benefited a ton from practice. I'd say very successful, minus getting him probably a few more minutes. But how do you do that with this rotation, really?
Yeah, and like if they were
considering basketball politics as well, just with
I mean that's the tough part is like, you know, if you're benching Julius to get Yohan out there, or if you're benching Rudy, like you don't want to like lose guys. But like the other side of it too is like this team's been so weird all season that it's like if they had like a 7-game lead over the 2 seed for most of the year, you probably see him a lot more. But they've just been in desperation mode all season. I mean, Eamon, I haven't talked to you at all about Yohan. Any kind of general thoughts of Yohan this year? The floor is yours if you want to just go on a Yohan speech.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely agree with Duke in terms of minutes. This is more or less what I've expected. But in terms of when we have seen him play, I've been more impressed than I anticipated just because he is so young and he doesn't have that basketball experience. I mean, going back to that Milwaukee and San Antonio games back in January, he was super impressive. And for him to immediately sort of step in and provide real two-way impact really jumped out to me. And I thought he was going to maybe become a consistent part of the rotation. With that being said, it is pretty challenging with the front court, like you mentioned, Andrew. And then, I mean, in general, I think kind of since that Philly game in February, if I'm not mistaken, where Rudy and Naz were out and he gets that first career start, it just feels like he's been in the doghouse a little bit. And then Brennan and Kyle definitely hurts his opportunity for minutes even more. I think I would have seen I'd like to see him get a little bit more minutes throughout the year. But at the same time, like you said, I mean, it's just pretty difficult when this team doesn't take care of business every night and they have such a loaded front court. I would have liked to see them try Nas at the three a little bit more, but in the limited minutes we did see, that wasn't great by any means. So I do sort of understand both sides. But yeah, overall, I think he's going to play a lot bigger of a role next year, especially you look at this offseason. I would be very surprised if all three of Rudy, Randall, and Nas were brought back. I think that's just going to open up more minutes for him. I think that's a big reason why all three of them won't be back. And then the other part is obviously like financially trying to balance out the roster a little bit. But from that standpoint, I am a little bit concerned with him playing such few minutes this year for him to ideally become like a 20-minute per game guy next year. I feel like we could see some more of those growing pains. So I would have liked to see him play a little bit more in general this year.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing I would like add is just on Duke's point of like sending him down to the G League. Like the couple times he went down to the G League, he just kind of wrecked it, which it's like, what are you going to learn from being the most athletic and probably best defensive player in the, we're kind of seeing like the Mac McClung of it like with his G League career, where it's just like at some point, like the guy's not learning anything from dropping 50 in the G League. Like he's got to just be on a roster, which I think that's kind of what they learned with Johan was, this dude just needs to be eating quinoa with Rudy Gobert and doing whatever Rudy Gobert does. And I'm with you guys. I think Summer League is going to be super important for him just to show that he can just kind of lay off the fouling a little bit. Mm-hmm. And then if Summer League goes well, like I wouldn't be surprised if he's playing 15 minutes off rip next year. Would you, Duke?
No, not at all. Well, we'll see what I need to see what the roster looks like first. Whoever we bring back or don't bring back, that's going to play a massive factor into this. He might put on an absolute show in the Summer League. Him and Rocco rocking that. I mean, the two-man game, kicking out to Rocco in the corner, alley-ooping to each other. We might see some generational Summer League basketball come Vegas in Summer League. Yeah, I mean, it really depends on what and who's going to be on that team. Like Eamon said, it's hard to imagine all three of Nas, Rudy, and Julius making their way back. So in that case, obviously that opens up a little bit of, or what they do with Kyle on top of that too. You never know. Kyle could always be that small ball five. 15
Kyle
minutes.
could get 30 minutes next year and it wouldn't even surprise me. Like, it's just, that's just Kyle.
I don't want to play into the Finch doesn't play young guys thing because I just don't believe that overall. We've seen that with countless guys that have come through the system. Really only Rob Dillingham was the only one for reasons I'm sure will be more clear as time goes on. But I can't see 15 minutes right off the rip. If we're being honest, I can't see 15 Finch. Just knowing him and who he's got in front of him. Depends if we bring Kyle back, obviously. But I can tell you right now, if we bring Kyle back, he's going to be playing more minutes than Johan. I can guarantee that.
Kyle might be starting if Kyle comes back. It might just be Kyle next to Rudy and Randall gets traded for like Gatorade or something. And I say this as a man who had not met Kyle before a couple weeks ago. Delightful person, that Kyle Anderson. Like everything you hear, great dude.
I'm glad that Cardinal question got addressed too. I've always wondered the story behind that because I'm a Cardinal guy myself.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I have a Robin tattoo, so I was like, okay, there's a bird tattoo. That's something. So glad it was. I'm glad it was.
We're friends relating.
I just like, hey, there's a story there. No one just gets a bird tattoo.
I love it.
I mean, I guess like Johan, I think is going to be an interesting test case because like next year, I think ideally if Finch is back and the core kind of Ant, Nas, Jaden, Io is back. Like, I do really think a big reason Finch doesn't play young guys is because these, like his starters kind of just mess around all season and don't build these leads and like build and stack wins that it's like, can you really get a young guy out there with again, like you look at this year, like, they haven't been able to play any young guys because they've been desperation mode all season. I mean, Eamon, I'll kind of throw it back over to you of just this season on a whole. Like, now that we kind of know the Wolves are going to be the 6th seed, I think that's, Phoenix would have to win out and the Wolves would have to lose out for them to take that from the Wolves now. But like, do you kind of feel the same way where it just feels like a bunch of lost opportunities?
Yeah, absolutely. Today I wrote an article calling it sort of the lost season. I feel like this is where it's trending. We can get into playoff conversations in a bit, but obviously you enter the year and you have championship aspirations, and I think it's pretty clear at this point this isn't a championship level team. There's just so many inconsistent habits, and yeah, I do think there's just been so many lost opportunities for the young guys. I mean, if you look around the league, I feel like everyone's like, oh, why don't the Wolves or Finch utilize their young guys like Dagnall and OKC does? And it's like, well, Dagnall and OKC, they blow out teams almost every game. And oftentimes they also have injuries, which is another factor. Up until recently, the Wolves have been super healthy. And I think that's another thing where it's just they've been the healthiest team in the league up until a few weeks ago. And they were still floating around that like 5-6 range. And I feel like that's just such a missed opportunity when you've had health on your side almost all season. There's really no reason this team shouldn't be a top 3 seed. I mean, I can think of just a dozen games off the top of my head where they either blew a lead or they didn't take their opponent seriously. They weren't moving the ball well. They weren't engaged on defense. And overall, it's felt like a pretty disconnected group in some ways. And I don't know exactly what to attribute that to, if it's just sort of being bored after making 2 conference finals or if it's maybe a deeper issue there.
Yeah, it's I've been just calling it a weird year. That's probably underselling it. Like, I do think looking back on this season, it's going to be really hard to like not call it a missed opportunity. You look at like Denver played without Jokic, Oklahoma City's been banged up all year. Like, this might be the final year where the Spurs aren't just a perennial championship favorite every year. I mean, the Eastern Conference is a mess. Like, Duke, do you kind of feel that way too, where it just is kind of like a lost, missed opportunity? Pack mentality mentions they play with their food.
We'll see come playoffs. Depends. We've seen this before. It's crawling to the finish line, trying to get something together. And last year, everyone said Lakers in 6 or 7. The year before that, it was Phoenix in 5. Wolves blew them out of the water for some reason. I don't know what kind of black magic they actually tap into before playoffs, but it works and it has worked. None of these seasons really made sense besides the Phoenix series. What was that? 23-24 with Cat. That's really the only season that made sense. We just had like weird losses at times, which is on par for any Timberwolves team in history. The year before, you have the change in Julius. There was weird vibes at times, that weird Julius pass to Rudy that bounced off his feet. Like, there was odd moments in that season too that made you go, ugh, and kind of give you the same feeling that we're feeling right now. That's okay, because we saw that they can walk into a first-round matchup with Luka Doncic, who beat them the year before to go to the NBA Finals, plus LeBron James. Granted, 40-year-old LeBron James, but no one would have expected a Minnesota Timberwolves team to knock off 2 top players maybe ever in this league. Now we'll see what happens again. Who knows if they'll end up facing the Lakers? You don't know what's going to happen with Luka. Reeves is most likely out for the first round. Yep. And then the other matchup would be the Nuggets, right?
Yep.
Toss up every time. It's like Ohio State, Michigan. It's Duke, UNC. We just played each other so many times, and maybe not the hated rivalry, of course, but we've just at this point played each other so many times within the last half of a decade that you never know what's going to happen. Who knows if we turn it on because we're just like comfortable playing the Nuggets all the time at this point, or vice versa. They could get blown out of the water too, but I expect this team to really put their foot on the metal that first round. If it goes bad, it could go really bad, though.
Yeah. Eamon, I'm going to throw kind of that question over to you next. I'm going to run some ads here quick, but just to tease it, because I'm supposed to tease things better. Like, I think we'll skip the whole, like, would you rather face the Lakers or Denver? Because I feel like it's pretty obvious you'd rather face the
Yeah.
Luka AR-less Lakers team. But I do want to get your thoughts on just like a Denver matchup. But first, ads. I say ads. Maybe we'll have ads. Hold on. Ads. Well, hello. Thank you. Live. Well, hello. Thank you, Livestream Andrew. This is Ad Read Andrew. And today we have Firehawk Construction and Remodeling, the presenting sponsor for the Missing Links podcast. Firehawk Construction and Remodeling strives to inspire people to follow their ideas, working with respect and understanding to create a quality, tailored result. Firehawk Construction and Remodeling, located in Blaine and serving in the North Metro area, is here to help you with your building and remodeling needs. I can say personally, thanks to Firehawk Construction and Remodeling, I have a beautiful deck in my backyard and countless projects that I started, they finished. Get started on your new deck or remodel today by calling Isaac at 763-710-5686. And we're back with another ad read. This time for Pence Homes, the presenting sponsor of Hitting the Hardwood Network. From the best tools and technology to transparency throughout the entire process, Nate Pence and the Pence Homes team is the top choice for buyers, sellers, and is proud to support you and your home ownership goals. Get started today by calling 612-308-1122 or by emailing info@pencehomes.com. PenceHomes.com. Don't know why that gets cut off sometimes. But anyways, Eamon, it's starting to look like it'll be the Nuggets. I mean, Lakers have the tiebreaker. Both of them have a few games left. I mean, Nuggets, that Lakers team that kind of trotted out there last night, the night before, just was not. I mean, it is just hampered. If it is the Nuggets and it's 3-6 matchup, Wolves playing in Denver, just kind of what are your feelings on a series like that? Because I'll be honest, like the trending stats are not good. Wolves are 27th in offense over the last 20 games. They have a 0.5 net rating over the last 20 games. They're now for the season, they're not top 10 in net or offensive rating, which isn't, I mean, that's just not a very good indicator. But like Duke says, this team just figures out how to rise to moments. So what's your thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely. I will say, just starting off, I feel like it feels significantly different from last year. Last year, well, everyone was picking against the Timberwolves in the mainstream media. This was a team that was 17-4 in their last 21 games, and Randall was playing some of the best basketball of his career, even before that awesome series he had against the Lakers. And right now, they're just not playing anything close to their best basketball, and two of their three best players are injured right now. And that's just a massive concern for me, especially going against the Nuggets. I think there's a world where I would pick the Wolves over the Nuggets, but as currently playing and as currently constructed, I just can't do that in good faith. I won't rule out the Wolves by any means. I think it will be a hard fought series. I think it will be 6 or 7 games, but yeah, I feel like the way the Nuggets are playing, they're on a 8 or 9 game win streak compared to the way the Wolves are playing, and the health factor. I think it's really hard for me to imagine a series or a situation where the Wolves win. Can't completely count it out because they have exceeded expectations every year, and they do match up with the Nuggets fairly well. And then in general, I think there's just a lot of things that can go right for them. The Nuggets don't have a natural matchup for Anthony Edwards. In general, I'm not a fan of them defensively. So I feel like there is a couple of holes that they can expose and make it a tougher series, but I would have to favor the Nuggets, just the way things are trending.
Yeah, the Nuggets, I mean, just going off of their trend, like Cam Johnson all of a sudden is like a really competent NBA player for the Nuggets. Aaron Gordon's back in the rotation, looks good. Christian Brown's probably like their worst like rotation guy right now, but he's been kind of a playoff riser. Jamal Murray's had a really good season. And then Jokic is just putting together like one of the best statistical seasons that didn't belong to Wilt Chamberlain. Like that's a lot to overcome. But then at the same time, it's like you said, Eamon, they don't really have an answer for Ants. I mean, this Wolves team has kind of had their number up until this season, where I think the Nuggets, won the season series like 3-1. But I mean, like it does kind of speak to the Wolves like season that if they get the Nuggets in the first round, they have set themselves up with quite literally the hardest path to a championship, going through Denver, San Antonio, Oklahoma City, and then whoever's in the finals. I mean, it would kind of be the Minnesota way, wouldn't it, Duke, if that's how they win their first ring?
In the most unbelievable way possible, that would be the way they win their first ring. Let's not forget the Twins were worst to first in both of their World Series. Anything can happen, but no, in all reality, Eamon made some good points about this is just a different team than last year's team because of this brutal end of the season stretch that really is just grossing people out to watch at this point. Yeah. But I mean, all in all, it's going to be tough to see them even get past. If they get past the Nuggets, it could be another like gauntlet, like Pack Mentality is saying, just series game after game is just tough on the body. You get to play the Spurs next, you get to play the Thunder if you even make it there. I'm more curious if there is like an early end of the season pre-Western Conference Finals appearance, what is going to actually happen with this team overall? Is it going to be like we just ended up running into the gauntlet, let's run it back next year? Or is it going to be a wake-up call to really, we just lost to the 3 seed. There was no way we're going to beat the 2 seed, and we lost to the 1 seed last year. It's time for changes. This playoffs is going to be probably the most polarizing, in my opinion.
Yeah, I would agree with you. Like, I do think, I just kind of ran like a random Twitter poll yesterday of just like, would you rather see this team lose in 5 in the first round, or would you rather see them lose in 7 in the Western Conference? Like, what would be the biggest, like, what would be the best for this team moving forward? And it was like 60-40, like making it to the Western Conference Finals versus getting knocked out in the first round. And it's like, yeah, I do think that's I would say more playoff experience is always better. Like, I can see the other side of, like, yeah, get them out of the playoffs. Maybe some people learn a lesson, change this roster, like do something. Eamon, where are you kind of sitting at it though? Like, you mentioned it earlier. It's really hard to see them keeping the entire band together, but do you feel like it's going to be a big change this offseason, or do you think it's like, where are you sitting at?
Yeah, for sure. I'm definitely anticipating a bigger change. I think it's really, I know I said between Randall, Rudy, and Reed, but I really think it's between Randall or Rudy. I think one of those guys is going to be moved. I think when you look at this team, there are certain flaws. When you look at the non-Gobert minutes defensively, they've just been totally awful, and I feel like they could come to the conclusion where it's just untenable to keep both Randall and Reed. But at the same time, especially recently, man, these Gobert offensive minutes have been dreadful. So I feel like they could also come to the conclusion that Gobert offensively puts a clear limit to this team. And all season long, in my eyes, they've been clearly behind the Thunder and the Spurs, and then even recently the Nuggets. So I feel like the front office does realize that they have some steps to go. You look at just how aggressive Tim Connelly has been even since that second Western Conference Finals appearance, and heck, dating back to the Karl Anthony Towns, Julius Randle trade. He's never afraid to make a big move. So I'm definitely anticipating a move of that magnitude. I don't know whether it's going to be Randall or Rudy, but I feel like one of those guys is likely gone, and I could definitely see a scenario where both of them are gone and they just totally retool. I think obviously you're still looking to be competitive, but the other factor that I didn't mention would just be getting more players on Ant's timeline. When you look at Randall and Rudy, they're just a little bit older, and I think that paired with some of the limitations, Gobert on offense and then Randall on defense, I think that's going to push them to make a big move, especially when you have Johan waiting for a bigger role.
Yeah, I'll say I completely agree with you. Like, even just looking at like going on Spot Track and looking at like the salary caps, it's like, yeah, I mean, they have lined themselves up to be able to pair 3 guys together and get any max player in the league. They have their 2033 pick open up after the draft, the 2032 swap rights. They can trade their pick as soon as they make it this year. Like, there's just a lot of writing on the wall of like, this is the summer where whether it's a huge pivot where they go try and get like Giannis, Booker, because pack mentality's in here, I'll mention Sabonis and Mikal Bridges, because I always get a comment after those two. But like, I do think there's just writing on the wall. I mean, Duke, I guess if it comes down to it and it is like you're packaging one of those guys to move out, like who do you think would make the most sense?
To send out in a trade or to bring in?
Send out.
I don't know who has more, or I guess in this case, maybe less value, like Julius or Rudy. Whoever has the most value of those two, you got to get what you can, because neither of them are getting any younger. Everyone, all 30 teams in this league have plenty of tape on both of those players. They know who would they be bringing in. I would guess Rudy would. It's so hard to like understand what Rudy fetches or what even executives think, because it plays more than just bringing a 4-time decoy. We mentioned that Rudy's a little goofy at times. Like, he is a different type of NBA player, different type of body. We've seen Wolves players get frustrated with him before on offense. Like, who knows what executives think about what this man's worth, even though if you ask a Wolves fan when he's not on one of these brutal offensive stretches, he's like an otherworldly defensive player that throws down lobs 24/7. He doesn't miss the pass. Like, the generational player, really one of the best defensive players to ever touch this court, like in the NBA, entire NBA history. So it's just really interesting to see that no one really respects him. So I guess like whoever fetches the most, to answer your question here, that would be the first person to ship out. I would lean Randall just because he hasn't been here as long, and he could fetch more just for having the offensive bag he has. And Rudy, I feel like Rudy's important to this Timberwolves team than almost the rest of the 29 teams in the league. Like, if you put Rudy on any other team, maybe like the Celtics or something, that would be a better fit. But I feel like we need Rudy more than any of the other teams in this league when I look at it. And he's not going to a tanking team on top of that. I can guarantee you that too.
Yeah, Rudy, I think, would have an aneurysm if he went to a tanking team. Also, like, the Chicago Bulls are out of assets, so I don't think anyone else can fleece them this offseason. Like, they've traded
Like
everyone. I guess Giddey, maybe they'd trade like Giddey for Julius Randle. We can dream. Yeah, I like what you said at the end there of just like Gobert's value to the Wolves is so much more than probably any other team that, like,
I can't think of any other team that needs him more than we do.
Right. And that's, I mean, is it, you have a conversation with Rudy this offseason of like, hey man, you're going into a different part of your career. You're 4-time defensive player of the year. Right now, he is the second in Vegas odds to win it this year, because Wemby might miss too many games and Chet might miss too many games. So like, he could be statistically the greatest defensive player to ever play, which feels weird saying it out loud. I think you're probably right though, where Randall's the first domino. I mean, Eamon, does that kind of make sense to you too, that Randall's probably the first and then they go from there?
I think they're definitely going to try to move Randall. I think finding a fit for Randall is the hard part. And I'm generally more pro Randall than most Timberwolves fans. And I understand he's not super popular within the fan base, but my thing with trading Randall is, if you don't think he's consistent enough to be a second option on a championship level team, that's fine. But you better find somebody who is. And I don't know if there's somebody who's consistent enough to be a second option on a championship level team that would make sense in terms of value for Randall and that the team would be comfortable bringing in. I think the Phoenix Suns are the one team that's like, oh, they could really use a Julius Randle. They just have a clear hole at that power forward position. They could use some more creation next to Booker, but I think the trade would be for Jalen Green. And if Timberwolves fans think Randall's inconsistent, just wait until they see Jalen Green. So I feel like it's going to be a trade sort of like that, and that might make me lean Rudy. another couple guys. These are like point guards coming off of injuries, but still guys that I think could be super useful and are fairly realistic value-wise. It would be like Julius for Kyrie. I don't know if the Mavericks would like his fit next to Cooper, but I feel like that's a popular trade candidate that's been thrown around Wolves Nation. And then Pelicans for DeJounte Murray, but I don't think Randall makes much sense at all with that team. And I've been sort of thinking about recently, maybe it's Gobert for DeJounte instead, but in general, trading Gobert is super risky because you have no idea what that's going to do to your defense. I think the offense would rise up to a clear championship level, but the defense could be sort of middle of the pack, and you really need to have a top 10 offense and a top 10 defense to win at the highest level. So there's a lot of risks with trading Rudy, but at the same time, in terms of getting a guy who makes sense value-wise, and I feel like he's just valued a little bit more around the league because he can raise the floor of any defense. I mean, we saw it with the Timberwolves. If he goes to a team like the Pelicans, who are bottom 10 in defensive rating, I think he could make them skyrocket. And for a younger team, I think he makes sense in many ways. Maybe it's not like a team totally at the bottom of the standings, but just some team trying to rise up. I feel like Rudy might have more interest. So I'm sort of starting to shift my thinking. While I do think Randall's going to be the name in most rumors and the guy that they'll probably try to trade first, I think it ultimately could end up being Rudy.
Yeah, and I think enough teams could talk themselves into it. Like, I know Charlotte was thrown around at the trade deadline. Like, I still think that makes sense. LA, like Luka has made it work with Lively. He's made it work with, I mean, plenty of kind of non-spacing fives. Like, I think Luka could figure it out. Like, he's a smart enough player. Like, I think there will be teams that are like kicking the tires on Gobert. It's just like, are they going to give enough? Like, are they going to give enough value for the Wolves brass to be like, yes, we're going with it? The other thing that's like weird with like the trade one, I'll say DeJounte Murray is kind of the guy that I'm hopeful they bring in. Like, theoretically, if he's healthy, he is just another guy like Io that plays super hard, can defend multiple positions, good knockdown shooter, like just makes a lot of sense. But then it's like, why would the Pelicans trade him? Which is like the tough part with a lot of these teams are just like, you know, that guy would look really good on our team, but like, why would someone give that up for Randall? Or unless you're doing like a Godfather offer to get in DeJounte Murray, which again, that's my dream. I just think it would make a lot of sense. I do have one last kind of fun question for both of you guys before we get out of here, because like, again, it does appear that Rudy Gobert might win his 5th defensive player of the year this year. Like, does his jersey get retired? Like, even if he's traded this season, he's a 2-time defensive player of the year, 1-time all-star with the Wolves. Like, is he in the rafters after 4 years with the Wolves doing that? Eamon, I'll start with you.
I think he would have to be honest. I think, especially in terms of just the Wolves' history, they don't have a lot of numbers up there. 21's going up soon, long overdue, obviously. But yeah, I'm all for honoring a great era of Timberwolves basketball. Whether that ultimately results in a championship with him or not, I think there's no shame in honoring that. And he's been such an important part of this team, and he's really transformed the culture, transformed the defense. And without Rudy, they wouldn't have made back-to-back conference finals. So yeah, I think absolutely at this point. Maybe I'm just a little too liberal with retiring jerseys, but I'm all for it.
Well, seeing how we have just Malik Sealy up in the rafters and the Lynx side is pretty heavy, like the stadium's starting to lean with all of the hardware on the Lynx side. Like, I think you can be kind of liberal, but like, Duke, I mean, what are your thoughts? I kind of side with Eamon of just like, I don't know how you don't. If he wins 2 DPOYs, like, I don't know how you don't hang it up.
Nick Collison's jersey's hanging up in OKC.
Fair. Fair.
I couldn't even. I mean, he was always the last center I drafted in NBA 2K13. Jersey in the rafters. I mean, he was around the franchise for quite some time, so I guess that deserves a nod in itself. But then you also have the grit and grind Grizzlies. They only made one Western Conference final. You see Tony Allen and Zebo, deservingly so, by the way. No disrespect for Zebo. So, yeah, I could see that.
Yeah, don't get on Tony Allen or Zebo's bad side.
No.
Those are like 2 guys I wouldn't want to be on their bad side.
James Johnson, no thank you. I will pass.
Yeah.
But, yeah, it's going to be if Nas plays here, I'd say like 2 more years. He's probably gonna have his jersey up there too. It's probably gonna be Cat and Rudy. We're gonna have a slew of new Wolves and actual things to look at in the Target Center that are Wolves related. Thank goodness for the Lynx giving us some sort of filling in the Target Center. That thing would be bare. It would be Malik and Flip, and well, we just had to pray for KG.
Yeah. Well, and thankfully KG will have his jersey up there before Rudy Gobert. I think that would be really tough if Rudy's was the first, like,
we got to get 21 up there first
to get put up there. Yeah. I mean, man, we live in a world where the Rudy Gobert trade is going to end up in Rudy's jersey, most likely in the rafters. What a world we live in.
Utah too, right?
Yeah. I would lock it as Utah. Like,
I was going to say,
I think he goes up for sure.
Honestly,
Utah might even throw Joe up there. Like, Utah is going to have a weird 2010s like reflection area.
It's the one we look back fondly on, by the way.
Yes. Royce O'Neal and Joe Ingles playing with Derek Favors. That was
Bogdanovich.
Bogdanovich. Yeah, weird teams. Enjoyed it. Weird teams. Eamon, I'll start with you here. Floor is yours. Anything you want to plug? Where can people find you, and where can people find your writing?
Yeah, absolutely. First things first, I appreciate you having me on the show again. It was a ton of fun. But if you want to read my work, you can do that over at Duncan with Wolves. I publish daily Timberwolves content, so it's a great place to keep up with the Timberwolves, get some unique opinions, not just me, but from my other writers. You can also read my general NBA content over at fansided.com, and then you can keep up with me on Twitter at Eamon Cassels.
Awesome, man. Duke, appreciate you coming on as well. Where can people find you?
You can catch me on Duke Schindler on Twitter, and I also mess around with the 10K Howls Twitter. I did realize, the Skelly Selly, it's been recently dubbed. When they asked for the name of it, we're going to maybe self-proclaim this, but we have the top comment that says Skelly Selly. Self-proclaimed, we did it. So at 10K House, shout out Andrew Landsman for making that up or seeing it somewhere. He did it first. That's all I know. And we got it for 10K Howls. Give them a follow. We're going to be doing and ramping up some content here come playoff time. But otherwise, follow me on Duke Schindler on Twitter. Instagram, I post some content, Duke Schindler once again. And then if you want to follow Duke Schindler VNL, Valley News Live on Facebook, you can catch what I'm doing over there on Valley News Live here in beautiful Fargo, and it's 40-mile-an-hour wind gusts.
Well, it's not 40-mile-per-hour wind gusts here. Thank you guys for coming on. For people that popped into this a little bit late, does get posted as a live stream, rewatchable over on YouTube, and X lives on forever. If you want to listen to this tomorrow morning, it does come out as a podcast wherever you listen to your podcasts at 7 a.m. There's also going to be a links one in the feed. Elmos from WCCO joined me. Kind of speculated on the weird Alana Smith interview post thing. Also, I'm going to get on my soapbox real quick. Don't ask athletes about their free agency plans at a charity event. Like, that's just weird. Don't do that. You're at a charity event. Talk about Australian basketball. It's weird. Anyways, we talked about that quite a bit over on the Missing Links podcast. But thank you everyone for joining. We'll be back tomorrow after the Orlando game. And yeah, that's all I had. Appreciate y'all.
Shout out Janelle McCarville.
Yes, back.
All right, appreciate you.